welcome to the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders at B2B services, tech, and SaaS companies to learn the systems and processes they've used to create success for their business. We'll also learn from marketing and sales experts to provide insights to help you grow your business. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and the podcast is brought to you by Modern Revenue Strategies and their 10x ROI B2B growth guarantee. Schedule a free diagnostic call to learn the fastest path to double your B2B revenues in just 90 days. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. I'm Mark Osborne, your host, and today I'm very excited to welcome our guest. We're going to have a very interesting conversation. Our guest is Richard Doust. He's a UK native who now lives in Strasbourg, France. He has a decade of coaching and acting experience in Europe and the USA as a dynamic and accomplished multilingual business coach, actor, and leadership facilitator. He's fluent in English, French, German, and conversational in Italian and Russian. I have to read this in order to get all this right. He possesses really unique ability to bridge cultural gaps and foster impactful collaborations. In his coaching program called The Speaking Flow, he specializes in customizing communication styles to enhance the persona of leaders, focusing on language refinement and body language nuances that align with your leadership identity. Richard assists international professionals in expressing their ideas, freeing them from feelings of inadequacy, and empowering them to overcome language-related self-doubt and so they can really command the room. So, Richard, I'm so excited to have you, and we're going to have a really interesting conversation today. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really pleased to be here. It's really great.
Yeah, thank you. So your work's really interesting, and I think, although not on the nose as some of our other guests are, really relevant for our audience that tends to be sort of CEOs, founders, leaders at boutique professional service firms or early stage B2B SaaS technology firms, because often these individuals are they're leading the sales and marketing efforts for their company. So they might be the face of their company or the face of their solution. And as such, they might be making presentations to investors as they're looking for financing. They are almost definitely making presentations to potential customers and prospects as they're trying to grow deals and grow the business. And they're oftentimes trying to sort of rally their troops and get their teams engaged so their employees are really all on one page. So I think that a lot of the insights you can share with us today will be really relevant to our audience in that context. I know you've done a lot of work in the business context. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I work with both individuals and also more in a corporate setting where I'm looking at managers, CEOs as well. So I'm on both fronts, if you like. In the corporate setting, and I have different sorts of managers. Different cases. One of the big aspects that I'm really working on right now as well in the coaching offer that I do is the relationship between confidence and authority. To inspire, we have to have confidence in you. If you're going to inspire us, we have to have a kind of a minimal level, that you've got confidence, everyone's got confidence that this communication is going to hold up. And I've been working with some people who don't have that, and they still have to lead a team, and they still have to inspire people every day and stand up there. And sometimes they have these bigger meetings, don't we? We know about those bigger meetings coming up next Tuesday morning, the big crunch meeting where I have to present the figures, whatever. And there, I have one client. I'm thinking of one client right now as I say this. He's just sweating every time. He's sweating his palms. He can't sleep the night before, and he's trying to sort of learn everything that he's going to say to make sure what he says holds up. And I've, we worked together. We've kind of started working together maybe now 3 or 4 sessions. It's terrible. It's a real pain point for him. So that's one kind of extreme that I'd be working with. Another guy I was working with has very basic English, trying to lead a multinational company where he has to interact regularly with people. But interestingly, he has far fewer problems about confidence. So he can actually, and I've been sort of helping him and coaching him, giving him some tips and stuff. But actually, once he finds the right attitude to what is going on, he can switch on that confidence and find ways through, and actually engage people. And people, then people take everything on board. Okay, he's got an accent. Okay, his English is basic, but somehow he's getting through to us. We can feel he's connected, and he's confident. So he has a kind of authority, even though you might think the opposite was true. So these are some of the things these are some of the sort of domains I'm working in. Different things again when you're working with coaches and consultants more on the let's say B2C, more individual level. Then there's a whole nother different kettle of fish, or can of worms, as we say. Sure. So yeah, lots to think of, lots to explore in this field. It's actually quite fascinating for me, is the relationship between confidence and authority, and how we can work on those two things. But we can talk more about that in a while.
That's really interesting, and I think worth talking about, because in B2B, we're always really trying to build credibility and trust, because we want our audience to sort of believe that we have the ability, or the credibility, to deliver what we say we can deliver, and then we want them to trust that the promises that we make will come through. And oftentimes, in a marketing or sales environment, building authority is a good way to gain that credibility and trust, because if they see you as an authority, they'll sort of defer to your recommendation on how to do things as a way to do it. When we were talking a little bit before, you also talked about one of the important ways of connecting with an audience is a little bit of vulnerability, and sort of opening up that ability to build rapport. I'm curious how you see those things working together, in a business, sort of performance environment, where people are trying to build that credibility and trust, build some authority in the mind of the prospect, while also trying to, be authentic and vulnerable in a way that, builds that rapport and that real human connection. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so you're honing in on two kind of aspects of the vulnerable kind of side and the very sort of confident side, and they seem to be opposites. But in fact, vulnerability works because you must have a certain amount of confidence to let yourself become vulnerable in front of people. Interestingly, we decode all that without really thinking about it. But if you think about it, someone who's vulnerable and dares to do that in front of you, they have somewhere in them, there's a kind of core confidence level that they have. Otherwise, they would just not do it. They would clam up. They would, push you back. So they are kind of linked. I mean, I can tell one story about vulnerability, which I found so interesting. I was leading a 5-day workshop for managers, 25 managers. This was actually, I've done this all over Europe and also in the US, but this was actually in Budapest in Hungary. People from totally different countries, Romania, Moldavia, Budapest, of course, Hungary, Germans, French people, all sorts of different countries. So I was speaking my very best international English, not being too idiomatic, trying to keep things simple. And one of the tasks was to tell a story. And we had this, this guy, Janos. And everyone knew that Janos spoke really, really basic English, hardly speaking it at all. So every time I'd be speaking, I'd look over to Janos. I'd say some of the things very, very clearly to him. But the task was everyone had to tell a story with a message. Come up in front of everyone, tell a story with a message. So, we go through the people, everyone's going through their story, and then it's kind of Janos's turn. And everyone knows, that Janos, he can barely speak English. So what are we going to do? I look around, and there was some talk about maybe him having an interpreter. He'll tell his story. Someone could tell it. He speaks Czech. He doesn't speak English, right? So an interpreter, one of his colleagues. So there was talk of that, and I looked around as Janos started to walk up to present. No translator. So everyone's sort of saying, well, what's going to happen? How on earth is this guy going to tell a story? How on earth is he going to what's he going to do? Where's the interpreter? Everyone starts looking, but isn't there an interpreter? How is it going to work? Everyone's kind of panicking. Janos comes up like this and looks at us all, and there's a big moment of suspense. And we're wondering what's going to happen. I'm leading this whole thing. I'm thinking, what's going to happen with this whole thing? And suddenly he starts to, in very broken, basic English, but you can really hear it. You can really understand it. He starts to tell the story of someone who overcame their fear of judgment because they couldn't speak English. And this is the story he starts to tell in basic, his story. He's going, suddenly we realize he's telling his story, his moment now. His message is, you can get over this. Look, I'm doing it. That's his message. Look, I'm getting over this barrier, this fear of being judged and all those things that we can live through as when we do public speaking. And he's telling us, and that's his message. And everyone in the, all the group of managers were like just blown away by this. And we're all, oh no, what an amazingly strong moment. And everyone came up to him afterwards and congratulated him. And it just really goes to show you can have the most basic level. You can have a very bad accent. There are many things you can have wrong, or maybe you speak too fast or not clearly, or you mumble, all those things. But if you can somehow connect and get into what your message is, and then embody that, then you can communicate with anyone and really inspire. And he inspired us with 15 words of English. He inspired us. So that's one of the stories of where you look at, when you think what was going on. Vulnerability. He had to come out there and do that. But at the same time, somewhere it's about the confidence that he managed to bring to that situation.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So in my work, you get all this kind of interesting work going on. So it's a fascinating subject. But it's interesting as well. Everyone is different. So I have a kind of system that I go through with my clients and so on to make sure we catch everything, because it is better, of course, if you do speak with more confidence, and you do improve your accent, it is better, of course, right? But it's not so essential as some people seem to think as well.
That's interesting. Yeah. So doing a lot of work in marketing and sales, I'm sort of personally very interested in kind of research into persuasion and decision making, right? And how how ideas spread, how people get persuaded by an idea. And one of the things that's pretty commonly agreed to be a truth and a fact is reciprocity. Is one of the big things that sort of like deepens your rapport with someone. It also makes you more persuasive if and that's why there's the old joke that you go to the bank, or you go someplace and they give you a pin. Well, now you feel like you owe them something. They gave you a pin. Yeah. Sure. And I actually have a colleague that I work with who is like, if you ever want to like make friends in a neighborhood, as soon as you move into a new house, like go borrow a cup of sugar from everyone, because even though you owe them, there's now this sensation of connectedness and this sort of reciprocity that exists there. And I think the same thing is probably true in sort of making that connection of showing vulnerability yourself, sort of invites them to be more vulnerable and more truthful to you, which is one of the best ways to really understand the business challenges, the professional challenges that they're dealing with, even as they pertain to them personally, which once you understand those things, you can make a much more compelling business presentation and a much more sort of compelling pitch for your product or service in a marketing and sales environment, and really deepen that relationship. So that's really interesting there.
No, obviously you're becoming vulnerable. It gives them the space for them to also look at their vulnerability, their weaknesses as well. They know they can look at that. They can even talk about it because you're kind of giving them that space by not sort of being brash and attacking them and everything, where then they feel they have to climb up. So, yeah, it's really giving people space is one of the key things. It's working out what space am I working with. What space is am I allowing myself to occupy on a stage, for example, on a virtual screen like here. We have our little theater here, our little modern theater where everything goes in here. This is our stage, so we can appear, we can come on and go off, like as Shakespeare says. Every world's a stage. We have our entrances and our exits. So yeah, there's a lot to what space are we allowing ourselves to work in is also a big question. And vulnerability creates a kind of bridge between people, very strong. And it's also how we humans work. We just love that too. We feel that connection, and we are gregarious. We need that. It's part of our existence, really.
There's actually, in B2B, there's a lot of email, sort of as a tool for marketing and outreach. And there's a trick that a lot of folks will use, which is to sort of make a minor either grammatical or spelling error in one of the first lines, because it sort of creates that vulnerability. And I think there's a balance there of you don't want to come across as unprofessional, or, oh, well, this is some, offshore, lead gen farm that's just cranking through, thousands of emails, and as a result, they've made a mistake. But if you can do it in a way that sort of creates that vulnerability that pulls them in, gets them leaning into the conversation, it can be really powerful.
That's right. That's right. It's interesting how we then now you can ask probably ChatGPT to put these in, probably, can't you, into your emails, and probably and it'll do it. So we can simulate authenticity. So this is a new thing, simulated authenticity. Wow. Right. Where are we going with that?
That will be interesting to see. So you mentioned a little bit earlier that you've got a process, and it's interesting. We talk about, here, one of our logo or one of our taglines is B2B growth systems to set you free, because we see that, like, when you implement systems in your business, it creates a lot of freedom, like freedom from, worrying about if this is going to pay off or not. Like when you make investments in marketing or sales, well, if you've got a system, sort of each step, and you have more confidence in the results. And systems also sort of free you from conflict with other teammates, because instead of you wagging your finger at someone saying they did a bad job, it's, well, the system let us down. And so how do we collaborate together on that system, which is, an objective object that doesn't have feelings, so we can criticize the system all we want, and then work together on that. So we're big fans of systems, which, sometimes simultaneous with process, but certainly a part of it. You talked about having a process that you use, and we find it interesting that, having these systems and processes oftentimes creates the opportunity for a lot more creativity. Talk to us a little bit about how, in sort of this, it's an art, certainly, working with people to, create these personas that they're delivering in sales presentations or in, company-wide meetings. What's your process that you use for doing that?
Yeah, so that's a interesting question. And of course, and right now I have a 4-pillar system, really, that I go through. And this has been refined. It's already about the 4th or 5th iteration, really. And I think there may well be more, but it's now at a stage where I think it's really ready for takeoff, if you like. And indeed, it is taking off. It's something that, where I have different sort of intuitions about what's going on when someone's on stage speaking, as also an actor, someone who's been a performing actor as well. You have all this information and experience going on. So I'm nourishing the system that I produce with all these insights, and also, let's say, a very important part, because many of my clients are second language English speakers, and I have the chance, the luck, if you like, to be quite experienced in being a second language speaker, because I'm a second language speaker in French, in German, in Russian, and Italian, not in English, okay? But I do, through all that, know English very well. I know the language, So that's some of the. I'm just telling you that to sort of build this up a bit, because really, what this system is based on is all those factors coming together, as well as a sort of a kind of scientific interest in the structure of storytelling and how we do that. How do we actually create suspense? What is, if you like, what's suspense made of? And I've done some research on that. But all that comes together. Right now, my system is 4 words: space, voice, character, and flow. And the big one, is space. Now, what does this mean? It means command. We're talking about commanding the room, right? But we're really talking about pushing out with our elbows until we can feel very big, and that we can take on any, space here. We can really fill it out. This can be, I can either in the virtual space here, like I'm showing you now, but we can simulate, even at a distance, the real virtual stage, the real stage as well. So, and one of the big problems that, many people come when they have something to resolve, some problem, some, improvement they're looking for, is they start from where they are. And where they are usually is small and a little bit cramped. And, they're not quite, obviously that's why they're coming, right? Because they're starting from a kind of small, sort of squashed in energy wise state, that's not so great. And it's not the best place to start. So what I try to do with my method is really first build this right out, really, really right out, so that we have the voice coming through really loud. And also I work on specific words and specific English melodies. Now, one of those, I could talk about this for a long time, but I'll try and keep this a bit shorter. One of those is the word, maybe more UK than the US, I'm not sure. Right. Now, one way to say
right
this
is in like,
to really interrupt.
Right is in like,
right.
That's correct. Like, I agree. Like, right.
No. Right. We're going to start it. Right. So you come into the room with a meeting. Everyone's there, sipping their cocktails, whatever. You need to start the whole thing. They're all talking away. They don't care about you. They haven't seen you. You need to say something that gets them all going. So what do you do?
A pretty UK way to do that is go, right, okay, let's get started.
Yeah. Well, in the US, you might find another word, right? It could be, right. Okay.
Right.
And if you listen to the melody, okay, right, and that precise melody is the one that gives you the authority. Now, if you don't know that, if you're maybe if you're used to speaking and, it's your mother tongue and so on, it's not a problem. Probably you hit on that. But even the people who speak English as their mother tongue can do this better. Once they know about it, once they have a few key things going on, you can come into the room, you've practiced it with Richard, and you come in and you do this right, or okay, or now, and this really, really, and at the beginning I have clients, I work a lot with French clients, for example, they're doing right, small, okay. So, first thing to do is kind of open them out so that they can really take that space. That's one example. And so we work with that specific melodies. And it's all around as well how English works. One of the big questions that I kind of ask clients is, what do they know about how emotion is transmitted, is passed through a language, right? You have a language, you have emotion. How do they work together in that language? How does emotion get passed on, get told, get felt in that language? Now, and the answers are different for different languages, right? Now, English is a language where the stress, which syllable is stressed, is really important. If you get that wrong, if you get that wrong, you're getting into shaky. If you don't say if the wrong thing is important, then all the emotion in the world is not going to come through to us, right? That's how it works. And it's interesting to me that we haven't really talked about this enough. This is a real subject that I think needs a lot more light shone on it. Different languages work with emotion in different ways, and that's what you need to figure out. Now, for English, I've got a pretty good idea. I work a lot with that, and I have some really good ideas about the specific melodies that you can use when you're speaking English that give you that authority, that give you that capacity to interrupt a room of 500 people, no problem. I worked with a Spanish woman. She had to lead these huge international conferences, meetings with EU scientists. She would come into the room, no one listened to her. We worked with right, just one word, one coaching session, right, until she got it right. And she came back the next time. I said, Richard, I just said right. And they all sat down immediately and started to look at me. So, there's sometimes the very simple things are the most important. So that, if you like, is space. Then we go on to voice, and we go to character and flow. Now, and I don't want to maybe to take up the whole podcast with all that, but perhaps some words. Yeah, voice. We're looking at going a bit deeper into the words and the accent. Maybe some people have what you can do. Now, I work with all sorts of people from different languages. Some even native speakers want to change some things about their accent as well. So it's always a topic. And different nationalities have different problems. With French people, I can do the French accent if you like. It's very easy to do the French accent, but I can do the other. I can do the German accent as well. It's not so difficult. I can do the Italian accent. It is also not a problem, and I can do a Russian accent as well. So you have all these sort of filters that people come at you with. Now, my work is not to say this is rubbish. Start again, learn to speak proper English, is to pick out and choose with the client what things are going to be he's going to keep from his accents. Some accents are so charming. They're so beautiful. We love them. We like listening to them. It's part of the persona. So we don't want to rub all that out. But there are some things that hinder comprehension, slow us down, demand cognitive effort from our audience. And that's what we want to work on. So we're looking at voice, then we move on to character. I'm going through quickly now. Character is more about the timing, the body language, the gaze, how you use your gaze. For example, one thing that people don't do enough is this. So I was thinking the other day about how to resolve this problem. And it's breaking gaze, breaking the gaze, allowing yourself to go to an inner gaze. And this also, it's a light vulnerability. It attracts the audience in. They try to think with you. They're trying to see what you're going to say. They understand that you're looking for your words, that's the word. So this is more like the whole character, if you like. And then flow is really taking away all the little breaks that could stop you, that slow you down. Some of it's mental mindset stuff, some of it's technical language stuff. Just making the whole thing just explode so that we really know where we're going. We just let loose then. It's letting go. In fact, the last step is letting go of everything that we've been controlling and working on. So there you go. That's
a master class in communication there in the last, I guess, 2 or 3 minutes there. So thank you for that. That's amazing. So obviously you've got a really well-worn process, and you've got a lot of experience delivering a lot of success for here. So, for our audience that's listening, that's like, wow, there's obviously opportunity to get better and to improve. What would be
Absolutely.
What would be sort of a piece of advice that you would give to that founder who's like, I want to make a bigger impact every time I speak? What's one piece of advice that they can get started on today that will sort of improve their process?
Yeah. Now, there are things to do. Now, not all of them are easy to do on your own, right? This is the thing. Quite often, we do need someone who's going to validate, who's going to guide you on the process. Certainly, one of the big things that I think needs doing is this bringing out the space, opening up the space so that you really feel you're inhabiting this space. You can really, it's like practicing being big. If you start being big enough, many of the small problems just disappear. This is my experience. Be bigger, and the little sort of niggly things where you think, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, I'm not sure if that's good, is this the right word, and blah, 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 and all those things just fade away if you're big. So it's like, open up the height, depth, width, your face as well, of course, the whole thing, just appear like a giant, and all your worries will disappear. That's roughly what Richard would say in that case. That's one thing to work on. Now, that's not so easy to work on your own. If you'd say someone to do that, on the internet, you get all these tips, public speaking tips, it's just like 10 tips to improve your public speaking. Has anyone ever done those tips and learned and improved something? Maybe one, or every now and then you read one thing. And most of it is really basic stuff. It's like, oh yeah, practice your text beforehand or stuff like that. I didn't think of that. Oh, is that a good idea? Wow. Most of it's like that. Look at your audience. Oh yeah, okay, you mean I shouldn't tell it like this?
Right.
Okay, I should look at my... No, it's like, most of it's like that. But this advice about the space that I'm talking about. Now, if you just take that on, what will happen is, okay, we need to work on space. Richard said, open out the body, open it up. Okay, and what people will do, instead of doing this, they'll do this, right? They'll do, and yes, there is progress. Yes, right. yes. But you need someone in front of you to say, no, go there. Really? Right. Yeah, no, go there. Yeah, now go there. And after a while, the guy or the lady or whoever is talking like this. And it's just, rolling away. And they've got that high level. And then many of their problems are just suddenly disappearing. Why? Because they are speaking in a way that their brain understands. Anyone who speaks like this must be really confident. Your brain reflects that back to you. He says, wow, if you're speaking loud and big like that, you must be so confident. And then you think, oh yeah, I suppose I am. I am confident. Look at me. How could I not be confident if I'm speaking like that? So you see, there's a play between confidence and space and how we fill it out. So that would be that's always the first thing I'd look for, you know. After that, it does depend a bit on where people are, you know, with their voice and so on. And you know, and finding the right stress and the right words and so on, finding the emotion in the words, connecting those two things. That's like the next step, if you like. But that would be where I'd be going for a starter.
That's a great tip. I've learned a lot, and I'm someone that has spent a lot of time studying persuasive language and communication, and so this has been great for me. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot as well. So, Richard, if people want to get in touch with you and they want to learn more about how they could, you know, work with the speaking flow to learn how to be bigger, how to fill that space, how to command more of their audience, what would they do? What should they do?
Yeah, they should get in touch with me through my website or online. Of course, I'm easily found online on LinkedIn and so on as well. Richard Doust. There are not many of those. My website's thespeakingflow.com. So you can go on there, send me a line, send me an email. There's a little button at the top. Just leave an email, send me a message through the website. And I'm willing to, for the first 10 people who come through, say they came through your podcast, you know, to give people a kind of a little, what can I say, little analysis of where they are at, listen to some of their questions, give them a bit of advice, give them the first tips, if you like, about what they should be focusing on. You know, when I've heard what the situation is with how they're speaking, how they want to speak, what they think some of their hang-ups are. The first kind of exchange, 15, 20 minutes, maybe a bit longer in some cases, we'll see. I'm willing to do that for free, but only the first 10 that get this message, that click on that email, that send it, the first 10 emails that come through saying they've seen your podcast. So I'm willing to do that, but that would be great to connect with your audience a bit as well and see what kind of issues come up. Maybe there are some that I haven't seen yet, which is always interesting. So yeah, that's what I would suggest.
That's amazing. A great offer. Thank you so much for making that offer. I'm sure you'll get some folks take you up on that. So again, Richard Doust from The Speaking Flow, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to our audience about how they can use their language and character and voice and flow. I think I got some of those pillars right as they communicate with their audience to, you know, build that authority and credibility and trust that's so important in the B2B space. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mark. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining this episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. We hope you've gained insights to grow your business. If you enjoyed this discussion, please rate, comment, like on your favorite platform, and share to others who will find it useful. Do you know a CEO, founder, or leader at an early stage B2B services, tech, or SaaS company who would like to be a guest and share their story? Send us a note. Let's schedule a conversation.